Megabrainiacs. It's me again today. I just realized 2 days ago that I had double booked events for today because earlier Daniel Warren Johnson, who I had spoken to, his schedule is crazy, so he could only do it in the morning, and I didn't realize that I had booked him on the same day that we are doing our first brick and mortar cocktails and comics. But nonetheless, here we are, and I'm really excited because I'm gonna be talking to somebody that I've known for like a few years now since I opened Megabrain, um, and we've kind of both, I guess, traveled on the weird, strange journey of being comic book peddlers. And he's got a lot of really exciting fun things kind of in store, and just overall, like, being able to commiserate with other comic shop owners, I think, is always a good thing. So we I believe we both have our cocktails. He's waiting in the waiting room. I will now bring you into the rumpus room, Mr.
That's awesome.
Christopher Livecchi.
Dude,
Hello.
this room is, hey, how's it going?
Hey,
And
from World's End Comics,
yeah,
I have to add, who you are our mirror shop on the other side of the river.
yeah,
The Hudson River splits us, so we're, Gotham and Metropolis.
yeah, yeah. I'm not sure which one's which, but I don't
Yeah, I
know.
mean, neither am I.
This rumpus room is fantastic, man. I love
It's
that.
it's so
Thank
comfy,
you.
and it
Yeah.
smells of fine Corinthian leather and
Yes.
and old books.
Leather and books and probably like fresh cigars, you know?
Yes. Yeah. So
Yeah.
what are you drinking right now?
I made myself an old fashioned.
Oh,
Um,
nice.
yeah, we have these dried oranges, these dried candied oranges that we got to use them up.
Oh,
So
cool.
yeah, and
All right,
then
nice.
yeah, yeah. What are you drinking?
I went really simple because I literally, like, up like 5 minutes before getting on with you, I just finished getting the kids to sleep. My wife is recovering from surgery in her bed, and so I was like, all right, ice, booze, and something. So I just threw in some bourbon, some ginger ale, kind of like I'm back out on the town. I'm young and just kind of, I don't know what. I don't remember what I did when I was young.
Well, for what it's worth, that is a bartender to bartender. That is a classic combination because I think we've both been in the industry.
Oh
Um,
yeah.
yeah,
Eh,
so classic combination. Like yeah,
there was barely a night that you wouldn't find me with one of these behind the bar.
yeah.
And I was always drinking behind the bar. I don't think I've ever bartended sober. Actually, I did bartend sober once, and then I was like, this sucks.
And you're like never
And
again.
never again.
I was always pretty, I was generally pretty good about staying sober behind the bar, but mostly because
Yeah.
I get really paranoid about dealing with money when I've been drinking. So,
Oh,
I'm
I
I want my
couldn't. It was too depressing to watch
yeah,
the progression of, like, people walking in sober and then getting drunk, and just kind of, like, experiencing all of that all night. I was like, I have to be in it. Like, I have to be a part of this to
yeah,
be able to deal with it.
yeah. It's really hard to be a sober person in a room full of people who are getting increasingly drunk.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I started tending bar in a college town, in a Big Ten
Oh.
college town,
Oh.
and that was brutal at moments. Like, thankfully, it was a very small bar,
Okay.
um, and it was mostly like queer folks and grad students.
Oh, nice.
So it was a great crowd. Like, absolutely loved it. But even there, like among these people who I absolutely loved, I was like, oh my god, this is horrible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, so actually that's a great place to start. Um, Tell us a little bit about yourself. Like I know like we kind of mirror each other a lot, even aside from like opposite sides of the river. Um we're both, you know, business owners with, you know, families, and so just
Yeah.
give us the elevator pitch of your life.
Oh, okay. Let me condense this down into like 10 seconds. I'm a military kid. I did way too much. I am like ridiculously overeducated. I'm a adjunct professor in a couple different places. I've got a doctorate in geography. I'm married to a history professor, and we have a 4-year-old, and we have a neurotic 12-year-old dog and a jerk of an 11-year-old cat. So that's me.
Wow.
Yeah.
So on paper, you're like really smart, but for some reason you were like, I'm gonna open a comic book shop.
That's because
Like
adjuncting sucks.
it's like just not wise.
No, I mean, look, I'll be brutally honest. Getting a doctorate is a lot of work and it's worth it. And I'm glad that I did it. But also, like, I chose a discipline and a sub discipline that's not super sexy right now.
Yeah.
And the jobs in my area just aren't there. Even if I could get a job, it would probably mean living separately from my wife. And I just don't, I don't have it in me. So, and,
Yeah.
once you've taught for a little while, you're like, I don't really want to, like you have enough autonomy in your classroom, in your sort of day to day stuff.
Yeah.
At least as an adjunct, I think it's different if you're a tenure track person where you have like all these service obligations and stuff. But like as an adjunct, I work for somebody, but I have so much autonomy that I was like, I cannot work for somebody else anymore.
That
And
makes sense.
yeah, yeah. So it was,
I was kind of in a similar place, I feel like, once we started doing this, because by the time we opened Megabrain, you know, I've had a lot of weird jobs, and a lot of like just regular jobs like record stores, art stores, things like that. But at one point I I started getting a lot of gigs where I was working for very um kind of just wealthy, well-to-do people who were having me kind of facilitate, you know, their dreams or whatever. And after a while, you just kind of start to realize like, oh, I'm just making, you know, making money and, you know, making somebody else's life easier and happier by like, you know, all my blood, sweat, and tears and everything like that, and
yeah.
getting none of the reward at all. In fact,
You go home
none
at the
of the
end of the day.
reward,
Yeah.
and tons of grief, like such thankless work.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, and then and so it, you know, I got to the point where I was like, I need to do, I gotta do my own thing. Like
Yeah.
I know like everybody's always asking me like what to do. So like I'm going to tell myself what to do now. So
Yeah.
so just to give the couple of people that are here, because it's a little late, um uh a little premise on what this is. This is a regular segment that I want to start doing. I don't know if I'll do it like once a month or something like that, where I'm going to speak to many of my friends who own comic book shops, and we'll, you know, we'll have a little libation and we will ask each other questions about what we do, because it's such like an odd niche profession. I guess I mean
Oh my god.
it's a profession, and everybody that does it differently and has like a different thing that they kind of add to it. Like every comic book shop has its own fingerprint, um and And so I just want to like kind of have this forum where we can all just kind of talk to each other about it, because I feel like we don't talk about it enough. And there's like a whole contingent of like old school comic folk who are like, no, that's stupid. Like talking to the competition and blah, 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 blah. It's like,
We're all in it together.
yeah, like my philosophy since opening Megabrain has been like, we need more comic book shops. Like, I grew up when there was multiple comic shops in like every town. And the thing is, there's so few of them now. After a while, if you don't have any more comic shops, there won't be any more comic shops. Like, that's just how it works. Every town has multiple clothing stores, gas stations, bookstores. Like, why can't there be multiple comic shops everywhere? Like, it's not multiple supermarkets, where like comic shops are a very local kind of like, we're serving our, like, we're like schools and and libraries, we're serving our communities. I feel like every community should have one, whether it's like tiny or big. There should be something like this for all of them.
I agree.
So
I think people often overlook the services that we provide, or they're surprised, I think, sometimes by the kind of community service, that aspect of owning or being in a comic book shop. Like the programs that you bring in, the spaces that you create, the community that you not only serve community, but to a certain extent you facilitate community.
yeah,
um, and that, I think, to me, that's one of the coolest parts about the job. I need to lock my cat in the basement. I need to,
I did that with
yeah.
both of my cats before I got on here.
All right, go in the basement. Go.
Get in the basement. Get in the shed.
I'll give him some food and I'll chill him out.
I just before I got on, I checked with my wife to make sure that she didn't need anything. I fed the cats, gave them some fresh litter, and locked the door.
I spent a lot of time working from home, um, especially during the pandemic.
Oh
As
yeah,
when I was teaching, especially the part where I was teaching like more consistently. But the cat has his ways of making himself known, and
yeah.
it's
We
like taking magnets off the fridge and knocking things over.
we
It's
have two that are just extremely vocal and very loud. Um, but let's get into it. Let's I've got some questions for you. You got some questions for me. So you
yeah.
are the guest here in the rumpus room. So give it to me.
All right. So let's start sort of at the beginning of the process of opening a comic book shop. Like, there's
Okay.
a gazillion obstacles. And I think this is true of any small business, but I think it's especially true of comic shops because our overhead is so weird. But
Yeah.
there's a gazillion obstacles that stand in the way to even getting started. Whether it's the paperwork or having the funds up front or finding a space or the right neighborhood or whatever. Um, my question for you is, and I think this is going to be kind of interesting because we're in such different places.
Yeah.
Um, what was it that allowed you to surpass those obstacles? Come here. What was it allowed that you to surpass? What were the obstacles for you, and what was it that allowed you to surpass them and actually make it happen?
Um I mean, I want to say that honestly the biggest obstacle was the money, because when it came to like the paperwork and the actual like creating of the business, I kind of already knew how to do all that. I knew right off the bat. I was like, okay, if I'm going to do this thing, I'll need an LLC. I'll need to find a space. I'll need a bank account, like all that stuff. So I just immediately kind of jumped right into that. Um, yeah, the toughest part was like the whole capital of it all. And in order to really secure that, and a big thing for anybody starting any business, was getting a business plan,
Yeah.
because no matter who you're approaching for money, they're going to be like, okay, great, you want to do this thing, what's your business plan? Like, why should we give you money? And so that was another thing I just immediately jumped on. um it was still a little bit difficult because, for a number of reasons, like I didn't have horrible credit by the time, um I wanted to open this, but it wasn't like golden. And
Right.
so add that with just like me. Banks were like, "No, we don't really want to give you any money." So that was when somebody kind of pointed me in the direction of the SBA in Kingston, actually, at the Small Business Center.
Yeah.
And I started talking to a woman. She is still like my golden goddess of business, Jean Morris, at the Small Business Center. I met with her like a number of times, and I was like, this is the business plan I'm coming up with. Like, can you help me do this? And she didn't know anything of that. Like, she's opened a lot of businesses and helped people open a lot of businesses, and she worked at the CIA for a long time. um, but she was like, "I don't really know anything about the comic book business, but I can still help you like get over these basic business things." And so I met with her multiple times, and she kept going through my business plan and kind of helping me refine it. Thankfully, when like around the time when I started doing this, when you started doing this, there's now data for that, like, tells people how much the comic book industry makes. Like, it's a
Right.
multi-billion dollar industry, and there's actual data that you can track for all this. So that would have been the most difficult part. And so I was able to find some places that had all of that I could plug that into. And so once it came time to approach somebody about a small business loan, I kind of had all my ducks in a row, and so we were able to do it. um if not, then this wouldn't have happened.
Right.
It's it sucks because I don't know, I feel like there's so many people who have um great ideas, great intentions, think like businesses that they want to do, but it's almost like, the the system in place for people to start businesses isn't made for anybody that actually doesn't have money, which sucks because uh, I feel like I feel like we're losing out on a lot of good businesses that could be out there if it was a little bit more accommodating to everybody.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I agree. Like, the, so I'd never owned a business before starting this, and we we took we took a different route. So the business is technically it's me and my business partner Michael, and then my wife Andrea is also pretty heavily involved, and his wife Maddie is kind of silent, silent honorary partner. But we worked really hard not to take out any loans because I think we were all so terrified of what it would cost us if we failed. Yeah,
Which actually leads in beautifully to my first question for you.
sure.
So you didn't start out as a brick and mortar comic shop.
Nope.
For anybody that ends up watching this who isn't really familiar with this world, brick and mortar just means a physical location. Like you didn't have you were a comic book shop, like kind of in the ether.
Yes.
Uh, can you tell us about how you were selling comics before you found your current spot and kind of what the pros and cons of that were? Um, and then sub question, how have you had to pivot the way that you do things now as opposed to then when you didn't
Right.
have a shop?
Right. Um, so we started out as basically a micro business. We weren't selling online. We had shelves within two host businesses. So we worked with Half Moon Books and Rough Draft Barn Books, both in Uptown Kingston. Where basically we figured out what we could stock at both, kind of figured out what the audiences were in both places, and just installed a bookshelf at Half Moon, and secured a few shelves at Rough Draft, and just put stuff on the shelves to see what would sell. And I think we sort of figured out the Rough Draft crowd pretty quickly, and it took us a while to sort of figure out Half Moon. I think I'm still trying to figure out like what new comics sell at Half Moon, but
Well, I mean, for people who aren't locals,
hmm,
Rough Draft is a uh, bar, restaurant, coffee shop
yeah,
slash
bookstore,
bookstore.
yeah.
And Half Moon is just sort of your traditional independent bookstore.
Half Moon is an eclectic used bookstore. So
Okay, yeah,
she stock like the owner stocks and reads ridiculously broadly. So she has something for everybody, which is one of the things that I love about it there.
yeah,
Yeah, but yeah. So that yeah, for context for sure. Um, and we basically just started out from selling from those two host businesses and doing it on kind of a consignment basis. So like as kind of a rent, they would extract a percentage of our sales and then
okay,
pay us out. And we did that to the point, we did that for I don't know about 2 years or so, and it was starting to break even. We were basically just like, okay, I'm gonna put $500 in. Okay, I'm gonna put $500 in, and we'll just keep track of how much money we're putting in, and you know,
yeah,
little bits here and there, and it enabled us to start out really slow and not take out any loans, which was the thing we were afraid of. But it also meant that like it took us forever to sort of figure out the business and really build the business.
yeah,
And then in December of 2019, we opened our brick and mortar space in Midtown Kingston on Broadway. And it's tiny, about 320 square feet space, which I think is about half of what you had when you started out on Garden
yeah.
Street.
Which even that was like to me, I was like, oh, this
Oh,
is
yeah,
tiny,
yeah,
but it was still big enough where I had 3 rooms essentially
yeah,
where I was able to put product. Actually, technically like 4, but like the 4th room was like the entrance that I turned into, the
so nice to be
lounge.
reading. Yeah, I
Yeah.
really like that space.
I
It's really
I I miss the lounge so much. Like I miss having like a chill hangout space in the
yeah,
comic shop, but where we are, the rent is high enough where having any real estate in the shop that isn't actively making money is just dumb.
yeah,
So, yeah.
yeah. It's rough. Yeah. And that's tough because it changes the vibe of the space, right? It like
Yeah.
changes the way that you conceptualize the business and the community and the space itself, and that's tough. But yeah,
Yeah. I mean, I still have hopes. Like, I try to keep my, kind of my vision for Megabrain as flexible as possible all the
yeah,
time. And right now it is what it is. And I love what it is. I walk in and I'm like, holy crap, like look at this place. Um, but I also know at some point it's going to change and evolve, and who knows, maybe one day we'll open another location somewhere, and that could be more of a loungy location or something like that. So I try not to get too hung up on like, oh man, we lost that.
yeah, yeah. And I think that's what's so tough about and sort of tying this into the question, the kind of sub question that you asked. We went from having no visibility other than signage to being both a space and people in a space. So
Yeah.
like, yeah, we went from being like the sort of faceless World's End comics to being like, oh, it's these two bearded guys who, two bearded white guys who walk in, you're not sure which one you're looking at. Because Michael has more hair and I've got a handlebar mustache, and like, that's how you can tell.
Do you remember when you kind of realized like, hey, wait a second, we have regulars?
I don't know that there was any specific moment, but there were definitely moments where I was like, wait a minute, that person's been here a couple times. Wait, I know this guy's name,
Yeah. That,
and when they come back and it's like they come back and you have a conversation and you start sort of becoming friends, which is, really kind of lovely.
that's been one of the harder things for me, um in the past like 3 years, really, which is most of the life of this business for us. Once Alex and I, well, Alex is my wife. Once she got pregnant, we were like, oh, we planned it. We were like, hey, let's have a baby. We can kind of manage that and handle that, along with everything else we're doing. And then the universe decided to say, no, you're gonna have two of them. And we were like,
Yeah,
what? And
yeah,
so that just kind of threw a wrench into everything. And so I had to go into like full on like dad mode like every day, and so I've kind of lost out on so much of that, customer interaction. Just I
yeah,
when I started out, I had so many regulars and people that I loved seeing, and like, certain families that would come in, and it was becoming like a weekly thing where it's
yeah,
like, oh, we're here to get her weekly comics, and it's like, oh, that's so cool, and like, talking to kids about like, introducing them to new stuff.
yeah,
And now like I'll go into the shop, and we have employees now, and Nick will be talking to somebody that I've never seen in my life before,
yeah,
but like I'm listening to the conversation, it's like clear that this person is here like every week, and I'm like, I have no idea who you are,
yeah,
which just it's a little heartbreaking, but
yeah,
it's life. You adapt, and the boys are getting a little older and more manageable now, so I'm a little by little I'm able to like kind of get back in there, but it's very much like starting from scratch.
yeah.
Yeah.
That's tough. And it's tough, I think, to be an owner and sort of, so like we split our time is, Michael and Andrea and I all work it, but we're only, we're open 6 days a week, 5 days, sorry, 5 days a week for really, like 1 to 6, 12 to 4 kind of thing. So
Yeah.
like none of us is ever there more than about, 8 or 10 hours a week. Even though like we
Yeah.
work, I can't even tell you how many hours I work from home to support the business, but like
Yeah.
just the time that I'm there is maybe 8 or 10 hours. There are people who come in who Michael or Andrea sees pretty frequently. There are people who come looking for me and I'm not there. Like it's
Yeah.
really weird. It's yeah, like
Like, but at this
so
point, Brian's pretty much almost, so Brian is my business partner,
yeah,
and he's there like almost every single day.
yeah,
And when the pandemic started, we we reduced our hours, and stuff started getting shipped to his house. So it went from like me doing the majority of the ordering, and like the intake and the customer interactions, to like our staff doing most of the customer interactions, and Brian doing like most of the ordering and the intake and like all
yeah,
this stuff. And I'm just like, okay, I guess I'm gonna price this stuff, and like I like the meat and potatoes of
yeah,
the business is like they're all able to kind of be a part of it, and then it's like, all right, I'll help when however I can.
Like, no, I really am part of this business. I work
Yeah,
in
it's
my own
just it
business.
really sucks.
Yeah.
But it's nothing is forever, and it's slowly getting better.
Well, and
Um,
having like the I would imagine. So my kid is 4.5, and he requires a lot of interaction.
yeah,
Sometimes I really wish that he had a sibling who that I could bring them both to the shop and they could sort of like do their thing while I work with
yeah,
customers. But, like the days when I do have him at the shop, it's so hard because I'll be working with a customer and he'll be interrupting, because he's 4.5 and like doesn't
yeah.
have a
It's like
frontal lobe.
in your mind, you're like, oh, I work at a comic book store.
Yeah,
I could bring a child in here, and they'll just
no,
occupy themselves. You're
no,
like,
no.
that's not how it works.
Well, he is getting to the point where there's specific books that he'll take off the shelf and he'll be like, "I'm gonna read this. I'm gonna look at this," and then he'll be like, "Baba, can you read this to me?" Of course, right
Right.
at the worst possible moment, but but it's also really heartwarming to sort of see him saying, "Oh, look, there's Venom. Oh, look, this book is about Spider-Man. Oh, look, Sonic the Hedgehog." So
Yeah.
he has his favorite things that he likes.
Nice.
Yeah,
All right. So give me another one.
yeah.
I,
Okay,
I hope
so
I hope I hope that I answered that. Oh wait, no. I just asked you a question. So yeah, give
yeah,
me
yeah,
another
yeah,
one.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So, but I think also like some of this kind of leads me actually to a question that I have for you, which is, um, and maybe this kind of dovetails with what we've just been talking about, which is, what if anything has surprised you about owning a comic shop?
Oh, I would say I think the thing that surprised me the most was just kind of realizing I don't know, like maybe like the misconceptions
Mm,
were not as big as people have always talked about. Like there's so many stereotypes that come with like a comic book store
yeah,
and like experiencing, the comic book stores throughout my life. Um the whole thing of like, you go in and it's just like a bunch of sweaty, nerdy dudes like, arguing about, you know, Flash Gordon, Tarzan, Flash Gordon, Tarzan. Um, it's so I like from the beginning, I was like, I gotta try to not be that,
yeah,
I want to make sure that like whatever shop I open is a place where like everybody can kind of come in. And I thought I was going to have to work so hard to like get kids and women and like just everybody to come in aside from your standard you know 20-year-old white dude.
yeah,
You know what I mean?
yeah, yeah,
And thankfully we're at a time right now where there's so many different like types of comic books and types of graphic novels that once it came time to like start ordering stuff, I was like, holy crap, like I can order stuff for everybody. And
yeah,
so I did that, and it really like it worked. It's like everybody started coming in and they would be like, oh my god, this is really cool. I love this thing. And I guess the hardest part was actually getting people to realize that we existed. But once they came in and saw that there was like stuff for them there, it was like it was a no-brainer.
yeah.
So that was like I thought that I was going to have to really like have this battle of like, no, really, we're not the Big Bang Theory, which
We don't
when
have
people,
we're not bald with a ponytail and
well, yeah, like so many people, and we live in a tourist town.
Yeah.
So many people come from out of town. They're like, "Oh my god, you guys probably love The Big Bang Theory, right?" And it's like, no, don't at all.
Yeah, that's not the image that we're
Yeah.
everybody's going for.
Um, so it's been really cool and surprising that like I mean it's weird kind of trying to parse what data means what, but like online it's almost split half and half. Like 46% men, 50 something percent women, um uh like are all kind of, in our sphere. And
Yeah.
then walking into our store, you see like young people, old people, boys, girls, like men. It's really like that's the thing that I love the most is like walking in and being like, oh my god, everybody really likes this. I really didn't want to be like the place where you go in and somebody walks in and they're just like, oh, this isn't for me, I gotta go, like, you know
Yeah.
what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. As somebody who has long felt out of like, I didn't start really reading comics until I was in my 20s.
Oh,
And so I read a little bit as a kid, but not with any consistency. And I'd
okay.
never lived anywhere long enough to have a local comic shop that I would go to. So I think if we had maybe lived in one place, I might have discovered comics sooner. But
Yeah.
it did, for me, comics as an art form and as a storytelling medium didn't click till I was in my 20s. So I was always really intimidated going into comic shops. And I think like you, our model was like we want to be the kind of space that anybody can walk into off the street and not feel like they're not welcome. Like they can come in
Yeah.
off the street and feel like, oh, yeah, not only is there something here for me, but like I can relate to the people behind the counter, or you know, it's
Yeah.
that's it's ridiculously important, especially with the variety of stuff that's being published. As you pointed out, you know,
Like
just seems like
there's no reason that
yeah,
like everybody shouldn't be reading comics in my
yeah,
opinion. I mean, Japan, the entire nation of Japan reads comic books.
yes,
Like, why are like we have a lot of work to do
yeah.
in
We
my
sell the manga version of Anne of Green Gables on a regular basis.
yeah, us too.
It's amazing. Yeah, it's awesome.
Um, I guess the other surprising thing was, and this is like serious inside baseball. The other surprising thing was how fucking awful it is dealing with Diamond Comics distributors. Like, I'm sorry, I don't want to be that person. So for the people that aren't inside the dugout, Diamond for the longest time was they were it. They were the only game in town to get new comics, floppies, like the weekly traditional comic book that you would think of. And and just every aspect of trying to do business with them was like it, it was like taking crazy pills.
It was
And
infuriating.
yeah,
It was
like
maddening and infuriating.
from like getting orders where it's like like half of this order is wrong to um like not giving any kind of indication for like why is our shipping costing this much.
Yes.
Like just everything, any question was it's just a complete mystery. um and it's still, I mean, they're still infuriating to a certain extent, but the day that I realized that there were other venues and other vendors that I could get products from, and I didn't have to put all of my eggs in their basket anymore, was just a really great day. and not I'm like I don't mean to, you know, throw their head on a pike. Like, not all vendors are great. Every vendor has their thing, but like they literally were it. Like, they were the only game in town to get new comics.
Yeah.
And it was really frustrating that no matter how many shops, and every single shop had a problem or has had a problem with them. No matter how much people complained, didn't matter because they were like,
It's a
this is how
monopoly.
we do things. Yeah.
It's like Central Hudson, like
Yeah.
the gas and electric providers who, they have a monopoly.
Yeah.
It, there's nowhere else to go.
So now I'm happy that there are some new players in town that are kind of making them reassess how they do things. So, like, I don't want them to disappear. I just want them to do stuff better.
Yeah, agreed. And I will say, like, I was really frustrated when during the pandemic they decided to do away with everybody's customer service or their
Oh God, yeah, the reps, like,
yeah,
I'm not that our rep was like the greatest, but like we still like having somebody that you could talk to
one
and
phone number to call with
yeah,
a name attached to it, who you could say, "Hey, we keep getting shorted this stuff from the warehouse. I know that that's not your fault, but like, what can we do to make it better? Like, what
yeah,
information can we do, or like, what do you need from us that will make it easier?" When they did away with that, I was really, really frustrated, and then I kept forgetting that they had done away with that, and I was like, "Why haven't they assigned this new rep?" But we were without a rep for almost a year, I think. Like, we went through so many reps because they seemed to have a lot of turnover, which I guess is,
yeah,
but like, yeah. So that was tough. Like, and like you, the day when we found out that we could order from Ingram, or we could order, and when DC
oh my
went,
God, the day that DC was like, "Hey, guess what? We're like done. We're over here now." I
yeah,
was like, "It's happening.
and
It's
and now
happening."
And now Marvel and IDW, you can get them through, Penguin Random
Penguin.
Houses in addition to
Yeah.
Diamond, like that, I think has made some difference. And, my hope, I've been noticing that we don't get shorted items as often as we used to.
Yeah.
Knock on wood. But yeah, I still get frustrated with them. And
I mean, their
yeah,
shipping costs still make 0 sense, but
yeah,
there's
yeah.
so many other companies that don't, like, I
That
don't
don't
know.
charge for shipping.
What's that?
That either don't charge for shipping or don't charge for shipping once you hit a certain threshold,
Oh,
or
yeah.
that use a different shipper that charges less.
Yeah. But there are also a couple of vendors for non-comic things who have ridiculous, crazy shipping or non-shipping transparency, which drives us crazy. Or I should say more specifically, drives Brian crazy because he's the guy. I don't know what
He's
Mike is
very
like.
detail oriented.
I mean, you've like you've talked to and dealt with
Yeah,
Brian. I
yeah,
don't know what Mike is like, but like the minute there's a discrepancy on any invoice, like he stops what he's doing and he picks up the phone and
yeah,
he's like, "Why did we get charged $4 more than what you initially had said?" And he will
yeah,
not get off the phone until he finds out.
yeah.
Like,
He's like,
it's
I haven't seen that happen directly, but I've sort of heard from him a little bit about, like, sort of indirectly. I would not want to be the person on the other end of that phone, because it seems to
it's
me he's not only is he tenacious, but he's also very organized,
yeah.
and yeah,
Yeah,
and
so
asks the right questions,
he
and
has all of the paper
yeah,
trail to be like, "No, look, I have it right here on this clipboard, I'm
yeah,
looking at it."
yeah,
But and I think that's how a company like Diamond has gotten away with just not having to be great for
yeah,
so long, because I feel like there are a lot of comic shop owners who are just like, I got too much shit going on to, like, worry about like whether or not Diamond is like fleecing me for like $7 today or like, $100 today.
yeah.
And they got away with a lot, but he doesn't let them get away with it.
Well, that's good. Brian's fighting for all of our welfare. Like,
Yeah.
he deserves some commendation for this, man. Like,
Yeah. Um All right. So for you,
Yeah.
I feel so. So every comic, like I said earlier, like every comic shop has kind of its own unique fingerprint. Um, because everybody that owns a comic shop is into different stuff, and one thing that is at least positive in my mind is you can't just be a comic shop anymore
No, you
unless
can't.
you've been open for, you know, 20 or 30 years and like you're an institution at this point, but you can't just like open a comic shop and be like, I'm just going to sell comics. And
Especially if your idea is you're just gonna sell floppies because
yeah,
they're
yeah,
advertising.
that is not where you're making your money.
No.
Um so like so a lot of comic shops have like their own niche or alternate focus. We have um the arcade, like we have the coin op arcade, we sell vinyl and
Yeah.
toys, and like little by little we've kind of like piled stuff on top of each other, and now we're kind of more of like an all-purpose pop culture shop that
Yeah.
has a main focus on comics. So what is like the other hat that World's End Comics wears?
We are very game oriented, and both like board games to a certain extent, collectible card games, but primarily role playing games. We're everybody who's involved in the shop plays D&D, and so like we've built
Nice.
up. Yeah, I mean it's ridiculous. It's but I say that in like the best possible way. Like I absolutely love it. But yeah, so we all play D&D. We started I think sort of last summer, we finally launched a big multiplayer sort of shared world West Marches style campaign, which is basically like every game's a one shot. There's no set party. It's just whoever
Oh,
decides they want to go on this one adventure. You get 3 to 5 people together. You play. It.
you're like making me
I'm sorry.
you're getting my longing uh face right now, because like
Dude, come play. It's so low commitment. Like you could just like jump onto a game and like everything's a one shot, right? So like just
oh my god, I think I might need to do that, because
yeah,
that was one of the things when I opened the original location. I had that whole back room
yeah.
where I was
The
like,
clubhouse.
this is gonna be the D&D heaven for like, all of Dutchess County, and it
Yeah,
just I never was able to like crack that code. But
yeah,
part of that was because I was like, oh, I want to be able to play
yeah.
D&D regularly, and it was never in the cards for me. But I might need to might need to take you up on that.
You should. And like so the weird thing about so it's a shared world across dozens, dozens of players, and we're always adding new players, right? But it's also multiple DMs. So
Oh, cool.
you could get me one like I just DM'd a game last night, and Andrea DM'd one like last week or something. Michael's probably um, going to be doing another one soon, but like yeah, so we've got multiple DMs, one world. We're building like we did this sort of back build like world building event at home where we sort of like did a couple sessions to try to figure out the basics, but the characters are also to a certain extent co-constructing the world. So like it's infinitely flexible. It's like minimal commitment to those. Like if you want to play once in a blue moon, you can play once in a blue moon. If you want to play every almost every week or something, like you
Yeah,
can do. Like it makes it. I think that's the only way for us to sustain it because like I don't have the time to build up
yeah.
a from
You
scratch and like yeah
you can't be like, hey everybody, we're gonna play every single week, and like, this
no
is, yeah,
no
like you can't have like the ongoing campaign, especially once you've got people that are married with children that have businesses and job, like it's just
yeah
not possible. I shouldn't say that. It is possible. There's
it's
that
hard.
whole crew out in the Midwest that has been playing the same campaign for like 40 plus years, which I'm just
Yeah,
like, what?
that's kind of at that point the characters are like family, like
Yeah.
we had, and this all kind of extended from us having our own in-house game that we've been playing. So me, Michael, and Andrea, and a couple of other friends who've been playing for just after my kid was born. So
Oh,
it's
cool.
been over 4 years now that we've been playing, and we've played a couple of different. Like I've DM'd Curse of Strahd. I'm sorry to the characters I killed. Michael has been DMing his sort of homemade game, and like we've had a bunch of one shots and little excursions and stuff like that. So it kind of
Nice.
rotates through, but like yeah. So this kind of was an extension of that. It's like we want to play more D&D, but like let's do it in the shop with like complete strangers or customers or
Yeah.
so like it's a learning experience because every game's a one shot, and that's
I love that.
writing a one shot is a lot different from writing a campaign. So like,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. But
Nice.
that's our sideline. That's as games, and I do a monthly game night. Where I crack open something or I bring some stuff and see what people want to play, and we just play something. And I think the plan is this month we're gonna play Citadels, which I just bought a copy of and absolutely love. It was on the table earlier today, but it's disappeared. But it's really fun. It's just stupidly fun.
My wife and my mother-in-law and I have been we're still trying to find the moment when we can crack open the oh my god, I've had a lot of bourbon tonight. Oh, wingspan.
Oh yeah, yeah,
We got her wingspan. We got my mother-in-law wingspan for Christmas a couple of years ago, and
yeah,
we were like, "Oh my god, this is gonna be great because we'll play this all the time."
yeah,
She's a very big birder in New
yeah.
York State, and Alex is also, and so we still have yet to open the cellophane on that because our lives are insane.
Yeah, well, yeah, twins will do that, man. Like life
Yeah,
in general will do that, but twins is like
yeah,
the level of like craziness. But yeah,
yeah.
we sold a bunch of copies of Wingspan when we could get them
Yeah,
because
when you could get it. Like
supply chain
at,
is a reality.
at this point, it's like every time we're ordering games, it's like, is Wingspan available? Nope. Okay.
Yeah.
Just checking.
Oh,
Yeah.
dude, and watching the like sort of the ways that the different game distributors kind of we worry about certain distributors. Like Michael and I were talking about this the other day. He's like, I don't know. I think I'm not going to name the distributor. He's like, but I think this particular distributor might be going under. So like maybe we should start looking
Oh,
for another one. So like you know you develop relationships with the distributors, and then you sort of
yeah.
watch which products they can get and which ones they suddenly say, well, we can't get these anymore. You have to get them. Like they're
Yeah.
figure out who else is selling them.
Yeah. And I mean, that's industry wide, I
Yeah,
think. Like just all of it. There's so many people that aren't able to get things anymore that it's, they're having to reassess like what business are we going to become,
yeah,
or can we continue being a business.
yeah.
Oh, speaking of role-playing games, did you guys uh end up supporting that Kickstarter for Coyote and Crow? Did you hear about it's a role-playing game all about it takes place in a world where America was never colonized. So
Oh,
it's all like it's everything about it is like based on like indigenous tribes and things like it's I haven't
that's
played it yet. Like we just got it. Like
yeah,
they literally just shipped
yeah.
a few weeks ago, and it is massive. It's
Is it?
like yeah, it is like thick as a Bible, and like they really really dug into it.
Yeah.
um
We missed the Kickstarter on that one, but I think I'm gonna have to see if we can get it. The
I'm
one
pretty sure they're like
oh,
oh cat.
yeah, hang on one second. Great. All right. Well, no, I'll deal with it. Well, I can deal with that afterwards. That was the sound of glass shattering.
Yep.
That's okay. Um,
Yeah, I'm
No,
pretty sure like they're like at this point you could just go to their website and order it.
no. The one of the ones that we again missed the Kickstarter for it, but ended up having a visit from the game creator was Wander Home,
Oh, I didn't
which
hear about that one.
oh, it looks so cool, and it's kind of I don't know if it's like sort of marketed as all ages, but it's a little bit gentler. It's not combat oriented. Um, Everybody plays a creature. You're sort of like, an animal based character. You're on a quest. It's
Cool.
got sort of like there's something very Miyazaki about it that I like,
Oh,
um,
nice.
and I think like at some point I want to sit down with the rule book and like really go through it. But I'm really excited about that one, and that's one that I really want to play.
What's it called again?
Wander Home, and
Wander Home.
it's from Possum Creek Games.
All right, I'll check
It
it out.
was created by somebody named Jay Dragon, who came and visited the store and was just absolutely awesome. So I
Cool.
definitely want to support that one.
Nice.
Yeah.
I'm excited to maybe starting to get back into gaming and stuff. I haven't played any tabletop, I haven't played any RPGs. I haven't even touched a video game in 2+ years. Like,
Oh, man.
yeah, it's starting to get that junky itch.
Yeah,
um,
it's rough.
but so this is that's the ball is
Oh
to
yeah.
you now.
So I guess the sort of like big ballpark question, you were talking earlier about how like the shop is always evolving, like you sort of never know what the next iteration is going to be, you just kind of go with it. Is
Yeah.
there anything that you're excited about that or sort of anything that you kind of see in Megabrain's future that you're sort of looking forward to? Whether that's
Um,
coming back a little bit more frequently to be in the shop or whether it's like a direction you're taking or
that is a big thing for me is now that the boys are a little bit older, more manageable, um, the the prospect of me being able to physically be in the store more is like really exciting to me.
yeah.
Um, and then we always have like kind of all these new plans in the work. Like we just a guy we know like out of nowhere one day was like, "Hey, like, do you guys do birthday parties in the arcade? Like, my
Oh my god,
son."
that's awesome.
He was like, "My son's birthday is on Sunday, and I want to have an arcade party." And Brian like called me. He's like, "Dan wants to do a birthday, like," and so we just like kind of threw it together. And
Yeah,
then it was like, okay, we should be doing this. So
yeah,
like we
yeah,
want to start doing arcade parties and just in general. I mean, that's something that I've been excited for is just this. Like the whole kind of being able to connect with the industry through, this weird magic box that we have here. um it's been really cool. I've been Forrest Gumping my way through it, trying to like kind of figure out the best ways to do it, but also being able to speak to writers and artists that like I usually wouldn't be able to because it's schedules, pandemic,
yeah,
location. So I really want to start establishing more of a relationship with just the comic book industry itself. Like
yeah,
whether it's mostly comic book creators, but now this like the other day when I asked you if you wanted to do this, I was like, "Oh, I also want to talk to, so and so about their shop and so about their shop." And I'm
yeah,
like, like the comic book industry, I feel like that phrase comic book industry is thrown around a lot, but I
yeah,
feel like depending on who's throwing it around, they mean something else.
yes, yeah,
Where in my mind, it's kind of the whole, it's the the publishing, it's the creators, it's the booksellers, like, you know, the brick and mortar shops. Like,
Yeah.
it is this really um like beautiful web of people that like are doing so many different things that have to do with like these weird funny books that everybody thinks are for kids but are
Yeah.
you know, are not just for
Yes.
kids. um so that's exciting to me, is just being able to like kind of connect more with everybody in the industry. um and also, I mean, I love our shop and I love this town. Um, but I do think about like at times like, oh, you know what? Like we visited this town and they don't have a comic book shop at all. Like and and they totally should have a comic book shop. So like maybe one day we can open a comic book shop like another
Yeah.
location. But
Yeah.
that's, you know, I would not even know how to begin like just the idea process of that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um and then lastly would be kind of rebooting um like making comics. Like
Yeah.
Megabrain Comics started as a publishing company. Megabrain Comics started by making that comic book right there. Um and like it was amazing. I loved that experience, and I, you know, the collaborative experience of working with my friends on that, and just being able to like, you know, come up with this story and like spitting it out and having people read it and enjoy it. And so I really would love it if we were able to like kind of spin that back up one day. But you know, I talk about that a lot every now and again, but that's also something like that's the same as like opening a second location. I'm like, it would be great, but no clue how we could possibly like tend that right now. So yeah, I like I said, I'm my views on where the shop can go and where I'd like it to go are very malleable,
Yeah.
and I'm able to just kind of allow it to do what it needs to do, and occasionally help, you know, maybe guide it down a few roads, you know.
Well, I just want to say arcade birthday, dude. My birthday's at the end of this month,
Oh yeah.
and now I know what I want to do for my birthday. It just sounds awesome.
That's, I mean, that's part of the, so initially when everybody hears that they're like, oh yeah, my kid's birthday. But on the marketing that I've been making for it, there's also a little asterisk at the bottom that says like, ask us about after hours private events too.
Yeah.
So it's, we'll talk.
Yeah. By the way, I'm going to be 47 years old. The first thing I want is an arcade birthday party. Like
You're gonna
that's
be 47.
yeah,
I did not realize, like we're the same age.
yeah, yeah.
Nice.
And this is not age. This is parenthood and diamond.
That's all this right here.
Yeah, yeah.
It's so white.
Gives you a certain gravitas, you know?
Ugh. I look at some, every now and again, you know, it's Facebook is evil in so many
Mm,
ways,
yeah.
but one of the most evil ways is like waking up in the morning, opening your phone, and then Facebook is like, "Hey, remember what you looked like 8 years ago?"
8 years ago, yep, yep.
And it's like, "No, I don't." Like,
I had so much more hair back then.
so much more hair. There was
Yeah,
so much less of me,
yeah.
and like, and my beard was so much darker. Yeah. But yeah, that I think we could probably help you with that.
All right. Yeah. I'm gonna file that for reference.
All right.
Yeah.
So, all right. So, I guess final question of the night: what type of new and exciting things do you have happening at your shop right now, or coming
Ooh.
up?
Okay. Well, we have outgrown our 300 square foot space, and we are
Like
moving.
immediately when you jumped into it.
No, it took us a while. It took us a while. Like same as always. Like we started tiny and we built and we built and we built, and then suddenly I looked around one day and I was like, oh, I can't see half the books on the rack because everything is overlapping to a certain degree. And I was like, okay, maybe. And I looked and I saw the number of games we had, and I was like, okay, maybe it's time for us to get a bigger shop. So
Yeah.
our lease is up with our current space. Um, and our landlord has been awesome and is kind enough to let us kind of hang around month to month a little bit. But we obtained a bigger space in Uptown Kingston, right on the main drag on Wall Street, right next to the candy bar, and it's like almost 4 times the amount of space that we currently have.
Ye-
So yeah, it's
That is
dude,
awesome. I mean,
it's gonna
that's what we did. We moved into a place that was like 4 times as large as where we
yeah.
started.
Yep, and it's gonna have 2 rooms. Front room is gonna be retail space. The back room we're dedicating to gaming. So we'll have
Nice.
game tables set up, and and the beauty of that is we will now be able to do in-store gaming events while the shop is open, which currently we have to wait until we're closed because we're one small room.
Yeah,
We have to wait till we're closed, schedule things for after hours. Now we'll have a lot more flexibility in terms of that kind of stuff. And I
very
am
cool.
and we're going to be bringing more types of games in. We're working on a couple of things. I'm not quite ready to say yet what those things are, but we're working on expanding that um, to some other stuff, and I think that's going to be a lot of fun.
Nice.
Yeah, I'm sad to leave Midtown because actually I love the neighborhood. There's a lot of really cool businesses. There's a lot of great people. It's a really wonderful community, but
Yeah,
unfortunately, like it's also not a destination. It's a lot of people see it as a corridor, and I think it's if we want the business to be sustainable, we got to be in a retail district, and
that
that's like
was
that's the hard part about it.
yeah. We started out in a very intimate small spot that was very affordable,
Yeah,
but in the end, a place that had no foot traffic. And
yeah,
for anybody considering even opening a comic book store, one of the most important things that you will need to survive is foot traffic. You need people that are just walking around that are going to be like, "What is that?" and walking in to do, because without that, you're going to have days where you're like, "Oh, cool. We made $16 today. That was
or
glad."
less than that.
Or yeah,
Yeah,
or, "Oh, I didn't see a single person at all today.
yes,
I'm glad that I spent 11 hours in the store."
yes, yeah.
So, yeah, you have to you gotta have, like, I hate I it's a cliche from the '80s, but location, location,
Location.
location.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
it's serious, it's really important. So go, you know, don't go cheaper and easier. Go, a little bit pricier but better location.
Even if it means you have to wait and like just keep an eye on the market and keep an eye on the
Yeah,
property. Like, that's essentially what we did is when we knew that our lease was coming up, we are like, oh, maybe we should start thinking about it. Well, we'll see. We'll see if he wants, to keep us on or go month to month or whatever. And then the space opened up, and I was like, if the
yeah.
price is right on this one, we're going to have to jump on it because there's no other way that we're going to get into a retail district.
We
Um,
were we were we
yeah,
were lucky.
yeah,
Yeah, it was and honestly, it was like, it really was luck. It was a day that Brian bumped into somebody that he's known all his life, cuz small town, and I'm the only person that didn't grow up here. Um and he's a real estate, he owns his own real estate company, and owns a lot of property on like the main drag. And just this random day, Brian was like, "Hey, what's going on with that real estate place that's just been sitting there that's always dark?" And he happened to say, "Oh, they're leaving like in 2 months, like in a month or two or something like that.
Oh,
So
that's
we're gonna,
great.
yeah."
Yeah,
And he was like, "Hang on, I think we want that." And it was like a text, and it was like, "Yes, we do." Like first, it was like, "Can we afford this?"
yeah,
Then it was like, I mean, if we don't take this, then what are we doing?
yeah,
Because like, what are you doing if you're not constantly like moving forward,
yeah,
so it really, if that didn't happen and we were still in that old location by the time the pandemic hit, we would no longer exist,
yeah,
because like we just would have been like, all right, this isn't working, we just got to fold this up.
yeah. And that's a tough decision.
Yeah,
You spend so much heart and soul and time and money and energy into building something that's not just a shop, but also a community and
yeah,
like kind of an extension of yourselves. Like,
there's
yeah,
so many people, like, and so many comic shops that I, you know and one that I like adored just here in the Hudson Valley that opened not too long after we opened, who like ended up having to close like after the pandemic. And it's like, it really, it's one of those moments where you're like, oh God, what are we doing? Like, does
yeah,
this mean that we like, should we just stop?
yeah,
So yeah, I mean, it's tough.
yeah. Pandemic definitely made it threw a lot of question marks into our existence too.
Yeah.
But
Well, I mean, but we're still here. We're still here, and we're kicking, and you're getting bigger,
yeah, yeah.
and I'm excited for it. I can't wait to. Okay, I will say, all right, this is a little sad, but I still have yet to see your first location.
Hey, well, if you can get there before, say, the 24th, we'll be open until the 24th, and then I start packing. Or
All
we're
right.
closing the 24th. We're open through the 23rd, and then
There's been
24th.
there's actually been 3 days that like I was driving through Kingston, and I was like, oh my God, going to World's End, and I was like, oh, they're not there. And
Yeah,
then there was a couple of times I texted and I was like, "Hey man, are you there?" And you're like, "Nope, I'm teaching." And I
yep,
was like, "Oh."
yeah, yeah.
And
Well,
not to say that that Michael's not awesome or anything, but I know you, like,
yeah,
like I want to come and see you and say hi.
yeah,
Um but yes, I will come before the 24th to check
cool.
the place out, and to bid it adieu
Yes,
before you move on.
I'm there on Thursdays, and I'm
There,
there half of Fridays. So, like, if you're gonna come on a Friday, text me, and I'll let you know what time I'm there.
maybe this Thursday, what I'll do, because my days are always like wake up, breakfast, and then after breakfast, everybody gets dressed and we go to like the playground or like on some just random driving adventure so I can listen to a podcast. So maybe I will just drop the nuclear terror of my twins on your store on Thursday.
Great, that sounds awesome. How, how old are they? They're a little bit younger than Simon, right? Like they're
They're
how
3.
they're
Yeah,
three.
they turned 3 in January.
Yeah, three is fun.
Yep,
Three is tough.
that's a word to use for it.
4 has definitely been way better.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's like I feel like 3 is like they comprehend things.
Yes.
You can talk to them, but at the same time, they're still like very much in their own universe.
Yeah.
Like they're not quite rational. I don't know. Are kids
They're
ever
still
rational?
responding. No, they're never rational. But I think at that age, they're still the center of the universe, or they believe like wholeheartedly that they are the center of the universe.
Yeah.
At 4, they still think that they're kind of the center of the universe, but they're willing to like suspend their disbelief a little bit once in a while. Like
Okay. I like
you're,
that.
yeah.
I mean, I don't like it, but I like that explanation.
I mean, I'm just going with it
Yeah.
because it's all you can do. That's the
Yeah.
whole thing about parenthood. You just do what you can do, and
Um, well, so before we go, a little light housekeeping. For anybody that watches this, especially our friends and loved ones, um, we are both two individuals that, for some crazy reason, opened a comic book store. um and part of us being able to take care of these tiny terrors that we have is that we need people to spend money at our stores. So please go to our websites and buy things that you will like, because we both have things at our websites that you
yes,
will enjoy and like. I don't have like a specific section that I created for this event, but like I said, I talked to Daniel Warren Johnson earlier this morning, and we have a collection of his books, which are amazing, on our website right now. I suggest everybody check out at least one of his books because you will be blown away. In particular, Murder Falcon is my favorite. And then we have like lots of other fun comics and stuff for any flavor that you want on our website. And I believe you were telling me that you have some really cool recommendations on your
yeah.
website.
We set up. We finally got around to setting up a sort of like favorites, sort of staff favorites and recommendations section right on our
Cool.
homepage. And I think if you take a look at that, you'll get a sense of the kinds of things that you'll get a sense of the flavor of our shop. It's
Okay.
but it, I Andrew and I were looking over what we had because the three of us had sort of put our heads together and each came up with like a few recommendations that we wanted to put up there.
Yeah.
We looked at it tonight. We just started laughing. We're like, we're ridiculous. So you get a real sense of who we are based on those recommendations, I think. Yeah.
Okay, cool. So, I guess we should tell people where these places are.
Oh, yeah.
Um, my website is megabraincomics.com. If you're watching this, you probably already know that. And Chris, your website for World's End Comics
It's
is
worldsendkingston.com. Worldsendkingston.com.
worldsendkingston.com. And for some of you nerdier folks that are watching this, World's End Comics is in fact named after exactly what you think it is named after.
Yes.
Which yeah, I can't wait for that show to start.
I'm pretty damn excited about it. Yeah.
It's really taking too long.
But you know what? It's going to be awesome. Like
It is.
the,
I feel like it's coming. I'm guessing probably fall. It feels like a fall kind of watch is what I'm
it
guessing.
does. It
Yeah.
does. Yeah.
So
We'll see. Like if/when he ever comes back to the area, hopefully he'll swing in. We can ask him in person.
yeah. Oh god, that would be great.
Yeah. Someday.
All right. Well, dude, this was awesome. I'm so
Yeah.
glad that you were able to do this with me, and like that we were both able to kind of like, you know, step off of the crazy carousel of our lives for a second.
Yeah. No, this is dude, this is great. Like there are times when I hate talking shop and there are times when I love talking shop, and this is one of the latter. Like this is the kind of shop talk that I really enjoy. So like
Same.
yeah. So thank you so much for inviting me on. This is good.
Yeah, absolutely. And I will I'm going to talk to you about uh being able to drop into a one shot every now and again.
Yeah. Seriously, let me know. We'll put you on the mailing list and get you set up.
All right, cool. Awesome. Well, everybody that's been watching, thank you for joining us. If this is no longer live and you're watching it, thanks for replaying it. And just follow us on social medias, World's End Comics, Megabrain Comics, and just keep up with what we're doing.
Yeah.
And
Hopefully we'll see you.
yeah,
Yeah.
have a good night.
Good night.